either of you want to say anything about the midterms while we just wait for the votes? I mean,
I
the
think to
midterms
me
about today rather.
the takeaway tomorrow is all going to be about the margin, right? So tonight should be a win for Democrats by all accounts. And so the question is, one, does Mondami win big in New York? Meaning, is that really or is the combined vote between Sliwa and Cuomo enough that denies him a majority? So it says, hey, we're not he won, but he's not the majority view of where we are as a city. And then in Virginia and New Jersey, I think it's going to be one, does Virginia votes in threes. And so if I think Miaras is obviously the strongest one to hold back right now, but is the margin wide enough there? And in New Jersey, is it within, a hair here and there? That's to me the big story coming out tomorrow. Is this a big decisive win for Democrats, or do they squeak something out potentially?
Dan.
Yeah, I would just add the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I think the Trump people have put energy behind the scenes into that. And some people think PA's drifting a little bit more towards Ohio type of an electorate. If Democrats hold those seats, it's also good news for Josh Shapiro.
Yeah. I'll say respectfully, I couldn't care less about the margins because so much can affect him, unless it's a
Yeah, look,
massive.
Mark,
But
I don't disagree. I just want to be clear. Like I've said this before, I'll say it again. Even if we Republicans sweep tonight, right? Special elections, and I put off-year elections in the same bucket, are not every election has a lesson learned. How did your
yeah,
ground game work? What was your turnout? But candidates mattered. And the bottom
yeah,
line is in Virginia, our money was half the amount. Winsome didn't raise what she should have raised. I mean, there's a lot of factors. But so
right.
so should you learn lessons? Yes. But is there any big lesson for the midterms? Probably not.
Yeah, I agree with that. And in terms of candidate quality trumps everything, right? So she was a bad candidate. But I do wonder, Sean, and then Dan, whether there's a caution for Republicans. To me, the caution for Democrats is, as unpopular as Trump is, these races were, competitive. I mean, we'll see what the final margins are, but it wasn't like a collapse. It wasn't like and the Democratic candidates didn't perform particularly well. But money, California, Republicans didn't raise money. Virginia, they didn't raise money. They're being outspent in New Jersey too. They're the incumbent party.
Yep.
They wanted to try to make these races competitive. If you look at the early fundraising in some of the competitive races, Democrats are doing quite well for the out party. So what explains that, John? And isn't that a worry for the Republicans going
It's
into
a
the
huge
midterm?
worry. So in Virginia, we don't have limits. You can take corporate
But what? So
money.
what explains the incumbent party being so badly outraised?
I think two things. One, it just shows that Trump, both in terms of turnout and money, is people don't get as motivated if it's not him, and that's the number that's been the takeaway for the last 8 years. But there's just not they're not good. I mean, I'm not. I hate to say this on a public thing. Do you realize not one of the candidates in Virginia ever reached out asked for money? Not one.
Ask you for money.
Not one. No. And
Yeah.
by the way, I've got a lot of buddies that are legacy donors that are four-digit check givers say the same exact
But
thing.
but where's but
Not
where's
once.
but where's James Blair, the RGA, the RNC? Like, where's the machine that's supposed to be able to raise a lot of money? And I go back to
That's
California,
just
Dan.
not what they do. I
I
mean,
go
they,
well,
they'll kick
but
your
if they
butt,
don't,
but they're
but
not
if
going to do it for you. That's just not.
well, well, but
Well, I think what they're raising money for is Trump's accounts. I mean, that's the
well, I know,
thing, right?
but what are they spending that on? He's not running for
Well,
anything.
that's the
Well,
library,
the
the
RNC
next
and
year's
others dumped 3 million
midterms.
into last minute 72 hours get out the vote efforts. But the bottom line is these warning signs. You can't late money in a campaign is not good money. I mean, you want
Yeah,
that money
Yeah.
in
yeah.
early fall so you can put it on the ground, put it up. The warning signs have been there the whole time.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
to your
Democrats,
point,
and I've said this for a while, like we don't have a huge money problem, except on the soft side. That I worry about in the long run is potentially a problem. But I mean, you look at Kamala Harris, like she didn't have any trouble raising money. There was no trouble. And I think the candidates, I think Winsome Sears is why people never thought she was going to win. So you didn't fear upsetting Glenn Youngkin by going
Right,
and giving to the Democrat because you
right,
just thought the Spamberger is going to win. And in
right.
California, I think, I think the Trump people probably think every single day we have to keep the House, we have to keep the Senate. Everything else would be like a cherry on the top, but we don't care.
But then you got to raise money for the California ballot measure. If
No,
your
you
whole
do,
goal
because I think they feel like they're doing it elsewhere.
But I
and they
also
only need a one-seat majority.
look,
That's
Mark,
it.
I got to tell you, I think there's a story there, and I mean, and I don't know the answer, but the problem, I wonder if the way I read California is McCarthy came out and said, "I'm going to raise $100 million, da da da," and if you're James Blair, do you say, "Okay, cool, you got this," and then you find out, oh, by the way, he didn't do what he said he was going to do, and this to
Yeah.
me. I mean, there's a part of which you can't do everything for everyone. When someone comes in, and I think they were overpromised and underdelivered in California.
But
Yeah.
I think though, Sean,
hold on one second. We'll keep talking, but dip into Morning Joe, please. Go ahead, Dean.
I think the thing is, if you look at what the White House did, once California got rolling, they immediately started going to other states, right? So they clearly made a decision. Do we invest in trying to stop California, or do we try to go and get Ohio and Florida and Missouri and Indiana and North Carolina and all these states? And they made the decision that they would rather go and just go on offense elsewhere. And I think it will end up probably working for them. So, I mean, I think every dollar for them is protecting Trump for that second half of his term.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.